Greetings from the University of Mississippi. This is Tammy Kirkland. I'm here with you today to talk about rubrics. More precisely, how to use your rubrics for maximum effect in your writing. So let's get started. This will be a short presentation, but hopefully very meaningful to you. The goal is for you to understand the relationship between the standards, the rubric, and the commentary questions and certification. And again, to help you get the very most out of your rubrics. Did you know that Level 1 and Level 2 point out what not to do, whereas Level 3 and Level 4 rubrics point out what to do? And I want to point out that the Level 2 rubric is a very dangerous rubric. That's because 2.75 is considered certification level. So that means when you look at that level 2 rubric, you could score anywhere from a 2.0 up to above a 2.75. So for that reason, you definitely need to look at that rubric, but I would look at it through the eyes of what not to do as opposed to what to do, because we do find 2.0 and 2.125 are very common scores, and of course we're aiming for more than that, okay? But you want to make sure you spend time studying all 4 rubrics, even the level 1 and the level 2. I'm going to show you how to do that. We begin by comparing rubrics. Remember, your standards align to one of the 5 core propositions, and your rubrics align to your standards. Now, this is important. The commentary questions follow the flow of the rubric. That means as you begin reading your commentary questions that you're asked to answer in components 2, 3, and 4, if you have that rubric open right beside you, they're going to be addressed in the same order on the rubric as the questions are asked. So it's very important that you keep that rubric and your standards by you as you are writing. We want you to compare rubrics. This is in the WCTP 601 module, Standards and Rubrics, but I'll also drop a copy of this in this Super Saturday page as well. And you do this for each component, and you have them in front of you, and you list the things not to do. Look for words like vague. I'm going to show you a picture in just a moment. Or missing in levels 1 and 2, whereas level 3s and level 4s talk more about rationale and specifics and examples. And remember, the difference between a 3 and a 4, the 3 is just clear. The 4 is clear and consistent and convincing. So if you ever see a bullet that appears to be the same on the level 4 rubric as the level 3 rubric, in reality it is not the same, because for the level 3 rubric it is just clear, whereas for the level 4 rubric it is clear, consistent, and convincing. So here's what we can look at. These are reasons candidates do not certify. And this seems to be an example from the Middle Childhood Generalist, Component 4, which is a really good example for us to look at, because Component 4 is very, very similar for all certificate areas. So to get a Level 1, there is little or no connection between the gathered information, the unit objectives, instructions, and assessment. And you can look over at the Level 2 and you can see what that looks like. And it says the connection between the gathered information about the standards and the unit's instructions and assessments may be clear, unclear, or weak. So again, here we have it does not exist. There's no connection. Whereas on the Level 2, there is a slight connection, but it is an unclear connection, and it is a weak connection. And even beyond that, up above that, where we're talking about gathering information, says the information gathered may be incomplete or superficial. That means the information you gathered basically had nothing to do with pointing out a gap or something that you're going to address. Back to the purple, there may be gaps or poor articulation between the steps. My articulation was poor, wasn't it? Poor or gaps. Poor articulation or gaps between the steps. And if you go and you look back over here, you can always find the same thing, talking about the different steps and the different items when you look from one to one to help you understand. And over here it talks about, it even lists the steps for you that is it expected to see. So again, you can look from one to the other, from one to the other. The data may be incomplete or minimal or not used effectively to impact instruction. The data may be incomplete or the effect of the data on instruction was vague or general. And again, while the level 2 is above the level 1, we still don't want the level 2. The level 2 does not represent accomplished teaching. So again, this is how you would compare, and you could write these notes on that chart. You could also do it like I've done it and used a highlighter. Whichever works for you, you might want to do both. Now let's look at the level 3 and the level 4. Here we're talking about, let's look at the yellow. Adequately applies in-depth knowledge gathered about the group of students in planning effective and fair instruction. And over here we've got in planning instruction. What's missing? The word effective and fair. So really when you're comparing the 3 and the 4, you're looking for those extra words in the component, the level 4, because the level 4, again, it's a big jump from a 3.0 to a 4.0. It can do a lot for your overall score. So make sure you do this, and you can, again, you can follow each bullet. The bullets align with each other, so you can see clearly what it looks like here. For example, we have regularly reflects, and over here we've got methodically expands. So again, in here we've got encourages, actively encourages. So again, look for those words that are different, because those words, again, take you from a 3 to a 4. So this is how you compare your rubrics. You can also use your rubrics to help answer commentary questions. Remember, your commentary questions align with your rubric. Your questions start off asking about knowledge of your students in your classroom. Then you will be asked questions about instruction, assessment, feedback, and finally you will be asked to reflect. The rubric has the same order. Answer your commentary questions with the rubric right beside you. And now you should have already done, at this point, you should have already compared your rubrics. And I will say, if you have not done that, you still need to do that. You definitely need to compare those rubrics before you begin answering your questions. And then as you are answering your questions, after you have compared the rubrics, keep that level 4 rubric beside you as you go to answer your commentary questions. And often you will see a very clear alignment between the commentary questions and the rubric. I have an example of that. Here we have some questions, commentary questions, whereas over here we have the rubric. And you look for words like, let's use this example. Establish a safe, fair, equitable, and challenging learning environment. How did you do that? Well, if you look over in your rubric, it tells you what it's looking for. That promotes student self-directed learning, active engagement, and with other students, sharing ideals, conversing purposefully, listening attentively during activities as students explore topics of substance. So again, here it asks you how you did it, and then in the rubric, it shows you what they're looking for, ways that you should have done it. And you may say, oh, I did it some different way that's not in the rubric. Well, if you did it in addition to, that's fine, but this is what they're looking for. So make sure you hit something. You need to hit what is in the rubric. And again, I've got it color-coded here. Here we're talking about the blue. We're talking about monitoring and assessing students and providing feedback. It asks you, how did you do this? How was feedback provided? And it tells you that the teacher skillfully monitors and evaluates students' learning, makes instructional adjustments. Yes, they're looking for that. They're not anticipating that lesson to go textbook perfect. Why? Because lessons do not go textbook perfect. When you're dealing with a group of multiple learners, you always have some students who have misconceptions or issues, and then you have some that demonstrate mastery early. So how do you adjust your teaching to that once you pick up on that from your assessment and your monitoring? And then provides regular constructive feedback to students. So again, use your rubric to help you figure out how the National Board wants you to answer your question. So make sure you do that. Last one, what would you do differently? Look at the bottom. Seeks ways to improve practice. You are always looking for ways to be better. You're either green and growing or ripe and rotting. I don't care how great that lesson was. It can always be better. We can always be better. And that's what it's asking you to do. How could you improve that lesson? And don't say things like, "Oh, it was a perfect lesson. It went really well. I'm well satisfied." That's not the mindset of an accomplished teacher. The mindset of an accomplished teacher is, it went well, but I know that I can make it better. So you want that reflected in your writing. And again, I think this is a really good example to show you how to use rubrics to help you answer your commentary questions. Takeaway: your rubrics are a powerful tool. Use your rubrics to improve your writing and provide your assessor with the evidence they are looking for. That's it. Thank you.